Alright, g'day there. Richard Musgrave-Evans here from Australia. Today, guess what? Back on one of my favourite subjects, the mighty Murray River. Now this time, something a little bit different. I've got some nice little homesteads just kicking around here. And of course there's a few cliffs in the distance and the beautiful Murray water itself. Alright, a couple of flies just to go with the whole process. Alright, so now what I've done here is I'm painting on white prime board. I've just blocked in a few darks just to get me going and compose the picture, which I've done. Got tons of oil paint, mainly going to work with the palette knives again, and I will use the occasional brush to soften here and there. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is go for the biggest differences between this white board and the subject. Now I've already got the darks in, so I can start putting a few of the mid-tones and lights in. Alright, I'll just have a quick look. Now I reckon that this time I might actually start with the sky. I'll put the sky in first. So today got a bit of high level cloud again. There's a bit of wind around. It's a warm day today. It's about 31. I think they said it's going to be 32. Hell, that's a chunky. This paint here is as thick as, it's sort of half dried in the tin. It's not dry, but it's gone really kind of thick, so it's a bit chunky, hard to work with. Anyway, now let me have a look. Alright, so I'll paint a bit of that high level cloud in, which means I need a bit of that yellow ochre and burnt sienna in the mix. Let's just get this on. Yeah, you really got to push down on that paint because it's as thick and chunky as you would not believe. Okay, mix it around. Let's have a look now. Probably about it today. Now I'll just lightly stick it in with the knife. I'm not going to quite bring it down to the horizon yet. I'll stop it just short of that because I don't want to smudge the two together. Later on I'll get into that. So I'll just kind of bring it down like so. Stick a bit up here, stick a bit up there, wherever you feel like the clouds are flowing and where you want the composition to flow. I think I might go like that. Right, now get that off the knife. I'll stick a bit of pale blue-green down low on the horizon. So I've got cobalt white. I've got cobalt blue and white with a bit of that yellow ochre mix, which is making a kind of pale green blue. That is really hard to mix, that white paint today, not to worry. Just lightly tap that in here and there. A few places. Now already I'm just going to put a bit more blue into that mix. As the sky goes up, I'm just going to introduce a little bit more of a rich blue. Less of those atmospheric hazes and more of the clean blues. Get that in there. Right, immediately I'm going to a darker tone, blue. Get this chunky white. That's a nice brew there. You got to really put your shoulder into that one to get it mixed up. There's a big blob of who knows what. We'll put that there. Keep mixing, keep mixing, keep mixing. Right, that can go in up here. Bit of that up there. Now I'll just get it all in first and then I'll get the brush out and blend a few of them together. I'll just put the twang of magenta in that and a twang more blue right at the very top. Not too much. Just as it reaches up into the heavens, just get a bit more of colour up there. Right, I'll go get a brush. Just blend that off a little bit. Right, first, just get this yellow, get that yellow burnt sienna mix kind of down. Now I've got a bit of that undercolour here, that's why I said you don't want to touch that, because that has gone into the sky. I'll touch that later. Let's get that going across there for now. Right, just to start blending. Just mixing those colours together with nice random marks. Going this way, going that way, just blending at the moment. Just blending. Right, now, put this brush over here. Get that knife again. Just to keep it clean at the top here without introducing too many of those ochres into the clean blue. If the two mix together, you'll end up with a bit of a muddy colour because those ochres will kill the blue off. So I'm just cleaning it up with the knife to get the most intensity at the top here. Right, now before I go any further I might just bang in, have a look, got the water. I will put the water in next because it's kind of a nice colour and it'll get a lot of it in quite quickly. A lot of the picture covered quickly. The idea is to cover as much of the board as possible. So get some yellow ochre and burnt sienna. I might throw it in with that sky blue mix. It's kind of making a khaki sort of colour. Let's just get rid of that. We've got a few chunky bits in the paint today. I think that needs a bit more burnt sienna. You just go by feel on the day. Every day is different. Probably a bit more yellow ochre just by the look of that. Richen it up a bit. Let's have a look what we got. Not too bad. I'll just put that in for now. With the knife, just a little bit, there's a little bit more blue sky reflection in it as you get further along in the water. Up here there's a bit more blue sky, so I'm just adding that in right now. The river kind of chuffs all the way through these areas, so just sort of half put it in. Right now, I'll keep it fairly thin, the water, I won't go too thick. Just fill it in for now. Not touching the edges too much, I'll touch them in a minute and just get that paint in. Right. Okay. Just compose the picture a bit here. I can see there should be more there, so I'll stick that there. Okay, now right on the edge, where are we? You can just see a bit of the reflection from the trees above, which means you need a slightly richer tone, a bit more yellow ochre burnt sienna, maybe a tad of viridian green, to give you more of a, it's reflecting the trees rather than the sky, I guess you could say. Just see what we've got here. Yeah, it needs a bit more burnt sienna, slightly warmer. It's a lot easier to judge on the day than it is if you're doing it at home from a photo. Just put a bit of that in, like so. Right, now the trick is we'll get a brush again. Okay, now with this brush, I'll just soften the water and thin it off a bit. I'll start with any sort of marks, but I'll finish with downward marks to imitate. You can go across to imitate the reflection, the wind on the water, and down is a good way to imitate reflection. So go down. It's a good way to blend it and also give the illusion of reflection. I'm actually going to get a bigger. I'm going to go for a bigger brush. I'll find that a bit fiddly. It's not really putting the broad marks in I want. Yeah, that's better. That's more what I want. I like that. Now just lightly pull it through. Lightly pull down. So, a couple across this way. Right. Now I'm going to put, I've already got the shadow of the foliage around the buildings and out on there. What I'm going to do now is put the light source. Now just get rid of these brushes. Grab the old trusty palette knife again. Might move some of these greens just over here out of the way. Alright, now today, mix up some yellow ochre, burnt sienna, a little bit of viridian green, a bit more yellow ochre. That's quite a nice kind of foliage colour. Just have a look at this. Now I've got a few. The idea now is to very, very lightly touch. Don't push down hard with the knife, just skim the knife across the top. Very lightly touching where the shadows are, leaving bits coming through by only lightly touching, like so. What have we got there? You can see that the shadows are coming through. Bit more yellow ochre. Just lightly touch. Just working out where I want my trees. There's some really bright ones here, so I'm going to get some green. Mix up a light, so I've got green and white just here, mix up a light, half mix it with that yellow ochre. Just get a slightly brighter effect in these foreground ones, just up around here. Then there's some straw ones. Now I'm starting to get into it. It's starting to warm up a bit now, which is good. So I've got burnt sienna and some whites and yellows. So they're more bleached out because these ones here are very kind of dry and dead. So I'll just half put them in. A few more of those bright green ones on the edge of the water there. Now the distant ones, you've got that green mix. It's good to get some of these paler blues and greys and mix them in to just kill it back a bit. We'll just make up a bit of magenta and blue. Half mix it with that, which really knocks the edge out of the chromatic saturation and takes it back. Have a look. That could be, tonally, what do we got here? Slightly lighter, so get some of that light sky colour just next to it and push it into it to lighten the tone a bit. And also make it slightly bluer. Being further away, it is more of that blue colour. A little bit more half mixed magenta, a little few purples and whatever look really good sometimes. Just very, like I said earlier, very lightly dragging in. I'll stand back and have a look what I've got. Well, that's going all right, but before I go any further, I always like to get paint on my shirt for one. I always like to work around the board or the canvas or whatever I'm working on, never finishing anything quite, always going for the biggest differences. So I've already got a bit of that stuff in everywhere. Now I feel like some of those warm colours of the cliffs and just the earthy tones in general need a bit more work. They're lagging behind now, so what I'll do is do that next. I'll just clear a bit of an area there. Now there's some really nice, what have we got here? Let's get the white off that. There's some really nice oranges out there, so I'm going to just mix up a little brew here of cad red, cad yellow. Just get a nice orange to start with, a real high key one. It's mainly yellow, it's got a bit of red in it to make it pop. It's a really high key orange. Beautiful stuff, look at that. You can hardly bloom it glows. Unreal. Right, so you got that. Now, if I get bits of, say, white, a little bit of that stuff, maybe a tiny bit of magenta, believe it or not, mix it with it. nice rich earthy colour, but that magenta just knocks it back a bit and sends it more to an earthy tone. You could use a burnt sienna or something like that, but the magenta just has a bit more sting, especially if you half mix it. Let's have a look. That's a really high key bright colour. Just lightly pull those bits in. I might go a little bit more yellow than that. Just putting them in where I feel like they need to go. Right, go to there. Some going down the cliff face there. Just a few going out this way and a few up here. Right, now, that white is so stiff, like I said earlier, that white is stiff as. Just mixing up a kind of grey, faded out grass colour. Because of this time of year, autumn, hasn't rained for ages, the grasses etc. are really kind of greyed off colour, not as strong as they normally are. Put some in there. One of those silvery ones down there. Right. Oh, that's so stiff, that white. Not used to working with that. Okay, now just in the foreground here, just going to block in some of these it's very limestoney here. Very light tone limestone stuff I'm standing on. With a few greys and greens of the eroded grasses, etc. Just get it all in there. Might go for a bit of burnt sienna and yellow ochre mix here to make another earthy tone. Bit of that. I have to throw a few browns in the mix. There is a bit of brown underneath all that. Let's get it in there. Slide and slip around with the knife. Chunky chunky. Random marks because it's the foreground. Bit of shadow there, bit of light coming down. Move that one out of the way. Whoops, there's nothing holding the top now, hang on. The painting will be on the ground in a minute. I'll just grab that, put that there. Alright, now just colour some of that in. Put some of those lights down here because there's light and shadow on that bank. Where are we? Can you see that bank just here? Bit of light and shadow jutting through. That's what I'm painting there. Right, I'll stand back and have a look. Those cliffs on the other side there, absolutely beautiful stuff. I've got to mix them up. So let's get a bit of burnt sienna with all those mixes of warm ochres here. Look at those cad colours. Not bad, let's have a look. A fair bit of burnt sienna and stuff in that cliff over there. It is a very rich colour, but it's also a fairly light tone. Just lightly touching, letting all the underpaint come through, which gives the illusion of all the shapes of the different shapes of the trees and whatnot. Yeah. Lightly dragging here and there. Right. Now, that paddock on the hill, at the top here, which runs all the way through, that's kind of a keyed down colour too, so I'm going to use all those kind of magenta-y and earthy colours. It does definitely also need, you've just got to judge it at the time, it definitely needs some brightness as well, so I'll mix up some light yellow ochre colour here. and white, and then half mix it with those grey colours. Yep. Just get it in, drag it through. Trying to stand back while leaning back. Alright. Now I'll have a look what I got. Now with a big brush like this, I'm just going to pull through, wiping it clean each time to keep the colours fairly clean. Just want to mix some of that stuff together. Big brush is great for that, really softening. Clean that brush. High level cloud, so it's got to be fairly soft because it's right up in the atmosphere. There's a lot of softness going on there. White, yellow ochre again. Pull through like so. Soften it. Just pulling them through and just touching now. The idea there was, hang on, let me just do this a bit. The idea was to bring the sky down to the horizon, not letting it touch until the last minute, and then just go through it. Okay. Up a yellow ochre. Burnt sienna, a little bit of green. Just putting some of the reeds and stuff on the other side. A few upward marks. And some nice, obviously some nice reeds jutting around there. Heck, that wind is getting up. I hope it's not getting too much in the sound of that. Right, so we need a bit more white, a bit more green. Lightly pull through. Let's make a bit more of that foliage colour with some yellow ochres and greens. Burnt sienna. It's getting windy and it's really starting to shake the board around a bit. Just lightly putting the foliage colour back over those shadows. It kind of got a bit lost for some reason. It's just clarifying it up a bit. I'll stand back and have a look. Okay, that's all good. Now, yellow ochre and white. Just want to make a very bright, high key, earthy colour here for some more highlights. So I've got those yellow ochres, orangey yellows, really bright colours with white. Just lightly touching. There's some really good highlights here on the other side that jut out lighter than the rest of the cliff, so just putting a few of those in. Lightly pulling through, very lightly. Down for a minute, put this one away. Really light tones here, almost white and yellow ochre, etc, etc, etc. Just lightly put them in on the edges. lightly pull through with the knife now. I'm hardly even touching, just softening a bit like so. Hardly got any pressure on the knife at all. Now I'm taking a little bit of paint off here with the knife rather than adding to thin that watercolour. The colour of the water is just a little bit thick and hard to work with, so I'm going to thin it off a bit. Pull down to give the illusion of the reflections. Straight down like so. Alright, so that's all well and good. I'm just going to take a bit of this paint off here because I'm about to put the buildings in there. I can see some of that paint was in the wrong spot, so I took some off. Just lightly pull through. Right, so with this knife here, kind of a medium-sized knife, get some of the white. So what I'm going to do is clean this whole area. It's just gotten a little bit mucky here, so I'll put some aside so I've got some room to work and keep the colours clean. Clean all that off. Alright, so that today is kind of a really pale, the colour of the corrugated iron is kind of a pale mauve colour. So I'm going to use magenta and blue mixed with the white. Even half mix could be better, it gives it more strength. We look at the composition, we work out what we want. Okay, now just pull the roof in. Like so. Now I can go under it on the underside and actually take a bit of paint off to clean the edge of that roof. Right. Now, you can see there's another little building over there. It'll just fit into the composition I reckon, so I might just put it here. A bit more of that paint. Very thickly painted in that area, so that needs a little bit more to cover it. The good thing about a knife is you can cover thick paint because you just lay it on very lightly with the knife. What's going on here is just here, I'm taking paint off purposely because I want to get to those undertones to create the shadow of the underside of that building. It's actually a shed and you can see these shadows under it. So, in fact, I might even introduce a few more shadows. Just make it a little bit, is that red? Yeah, it's red. Bit of red, bit of blue, just making a darker tone. So I can stick it here to really make that pop. I can go to here, just here, I'll just darken it a little bit in some areas to make it stand out. I'll take a bit of paint off the edge here. These are shadows from the trees kicking around. Take a bit of paint off to bring it back to the shadow underneath. Take a bit of paint off here to bring some of those shadows from the gum trees on the side of the creek here. Just pulling paint off with the knife rather than adding at the moment. That's bringing those lovely shadows at the base of the trees in. And you need those shadows to really give the illusion of light and shadow. Just a few other little bits and pieces kicking around. I'm just going to put them in. They can be whatever you want. They're just bits of old rusty metal and bits of this and bits of that. Just put them in like abstract marks. It's going good. Just going to lightly put some more light tones in the paddock there. Constantly moving around the picture like I said, just constantly composing. There's a bit of a track out to the end here, I might put it in. Get some more of that orange. A few tracks running down the hill here, put the knife on edge like so and go really clean. Get some yellow and white, and this stiff white, which is crazy. Half mix it, get it real chunky. Then apply some of, I might actually need the bigger knife because that knife flexes too much because that paint is so thick. Just going to add some chunks here in the foreground of that limestone, which is as bright as you can get. Slide. Stand back and have a look there. Pull through and slide just to soften and blend everything. Abstract. Pull through. Make the marks go every different direction you can possibly think of. To add abstractions. Hang on, I'll just soften this. Soften that edge. Take some paint off here to produce the shadow on that side of the tree. Bit of paint off here for that shadow. Pull some of those trees up a bit with a knife. Wiping clean over time. Stand back and have a look. More of that blue. Wipe the knife completely clean. Just want to take a little bit of this. Look, what do we got going here? The board's really flapping around now. There's a lot of wind around and I'm quite protected here under this, but believe me, the board is flapping around quite a bit. Now I'm just adding a bit more of that sky blue in. Just pulling a bit of that off so I can clean up the edge of where I've just come from. That's just clarifying the edge of where the water's meeting the edge of the land there. Cleaning that up a little bit. Making that a bit more obvious. Right, so now I might just start getting into some of these. I could just see that maybe some of those gum trees need to be reintroduced a little better. Or refined a bit more, always working around like I said. Always looking for the biggest differences, and at the moment that's screaming out that it needs a bit of work through here. So I'll just lightly touch. Get some draftsmanship going. Right, put these brushes down I reckon. On there, just grab some towel. Right, and then it's going to pull some paint off here, completely off like so. Then introduce a beautiful high key colour there. That's right at the base where you come out of the house. Obviously it's all got to be worn flat. Main deal here is a little bit of orange and whatever in front of that building. Okay, now with some clean white, a little bit of cad yellow, and white half mix. Just going to knock in a little bit of branch work on the trees. Something that hasn't gone in yet and probably should. I might go to that other trick I can do like I've shown you in other videos where you can actually just scrape the paint off to create, put the knife on edge and pull it down. You can create the illusion of branches just by scratching. And then you've got two choices once you've done that. Hang on. You can either just leave it like a scratch mark, or you can put some more paint over the top if you don't like the look of the mark. Either way, it's up to you, but it's a good way to get those trees in there where you want them. Knife on edge. I might just draw a few on the other side here. You don't get too carried away, you just got to suggest what it, once you've suggested what it is, your mind will see it. If you suggest it in a few easy spots, suggest a few trunks and branches and whatever, all of a sudden your mind goes, ah, that's trees. And then the rest of the painting in those areas looks like trees to the people because you've suggested it in the easy seen areas. Right, let's stand back and have a look. Okay, now a little bit of those shadows have been lost on the edge here, or may never have been there at all, so I'll just put some in. We'll just lighten the tone a bit more than that, a bit more yellow with the green. Wiping the knife clean each time, as you can see. Now I'll take a bit of paint off there to create the light and shadow again. What do we got? Where's yellow? Yep, yellow, light green, very lightly touching this area. Putting those trees in where I can see them, bushes and trees and whatever, all sorts of different things down there. Salt bush, everything. Aridness, that's for sure, there's aridness. There's a bit of a salt bush down here maybe. Some bushes there on the angles. Now with a thinner knife, beautiful blue and magenta, half mixing together, just at the base of some of these. I'm just going to put some really dark shadows because they are there, but what it also does, it really gives the feeling of a sunny day. As soon as you put those dark shadows in, you can really go see, makes it much more obvious that the sun is shining. Managing to keep the paint off my shirt today, which is good. Always a good thing. Always a good thing. Right. I'm going to keep going with that blue and magenta for now. Creating a little bit more shadow work. Really starting to bring the painting out now. All of a sudden you can see, you're seeing the light in the picture all of a sudden. The light was already there, but to show it off you had to put the shadow in to contrast. All well and good. I'm just here, I feel like I could really, let me take some of this paint off. Look at the effects you get when you take the paint off. Look at those rich colours from the underpainting that have come through, those reds and who knows what. Just taking some of that paint off and it's bringing it back to those beautiful dark tones, which is really pulling the painting in. Look at those really dark tones under there. That's taking paint off with the knife. Alright, now I've got my white squiggly marks, like I said before, for the trees. but I'm going to actually add some paint as well, not just rely on, heck, this paint stick though. Like I keep saying, that white paint is incredibly thick. It's like trying to paint with a big chunk of chalk. Doesn't necessarily want to stay on the board. Yep. Right, let's have a look. Alright, so that's getting there. Maybe I'll just put the indication slightly of the roof on this side, just so you get an idea what's going on there. Mix up some of those magentas and whatever. Some of these trunks can be a combination of, here comes a jet plane. Take a bit of paint off. Those trunks can be a combination of the magenta-y, shadowy colours, the grey sort of silveries of the trunk, and then the golden, white, yellow highlights as well mixed together. Look at that white, golden stuff. Blob there for some reason, blob there for some reason. What's that? Can you hear that? It's the paddle steamer. Did you hear that? That was the paddle steamer. It's off in, just off here, just out of the picture. Siennas in green, slightly darker tone. Just those reflections of the trees on the other side. Putting some light tones on the tops of the cliffs here. There are some very light, beautiful tones jutting around on these cliffs. Warm and cool contrasts, so I'm throwing a bit of magenta with it as well now. They are quite beautiful. Trying to work out where. Yep, lighten the tone a bit. Pull that through there. Right, it's coming along now. Some white. Keyed down white a little bit. There are just a few buildings and stuff on the other side. Let's put this brush away. Here we go. Wow. I can't reach it. There's a few buildings kicking around here and there on both sides. They add interest and give the illusion of refinement. So putting some in is certainly not going to hurt. It's going to take some of that edge off to clean that edge up. That looks like a big... Use my finger even. Get a cleaner edge to it so it looks like a rooftop instead of just a blob. Pulling the paint off. You stick the paint on with the knife and then you get underneath and slide it off. It's perfect for those ones there. as you saw earlier on, these two. Slide the underside and you can get the paint off. Right. So much going on, so much going on. Bit of a road on the other side. I might introduce that, it looks alright. Knife on edge. Pulling a bit of a line in here and there. Just starting to get a few of those bugs on the painting. I better finish soon. Just pulling through a little bit with a fairly clean brush to soften that edge. Just every now and then you feel like, you know, you want things to key off a little bit, and sometimes you just got to have the confidence to just get in there and rip a clean brush through over the top of it, see how it goes. Sometimes you'll be very disappointed and sometimes you'll like what you did. Right, so what do we got here? Let's have a look. Cleaning up a few of those edges. Creating variety of marks, never repeating yourself. There's quite a few long marks here, I'm just shortening a few of them. So you've got that variety of long and short, lost and found, hard and soft, all the other stuff. Right, now if I can just get some clean white, I haven't got much white left. Just trying to get a real clean piece of white in there with some of those beautiful oranges. Just lightly put them in. Because that high level cloud's just beautiful, it's chuffing along. It's chuffing along really nicely up there, so drag through and soften it. Soften bits here and there. Lightly feather it off. Like I said, high level cloud's very soft stuff, so you don't want it to be too thick and contrasting. The palette knife marks are good, but at the same time it is a very soft thing going on, so you don't want it too harsh. Magenta and blue, half mixed. Shadow there. Shadow there. 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 Just trying to sharpen that focal area up to bring it right up. Right, we're just about there, I reckon. Little bits of things here and there, just bringing up some trees on the horizon with my finger. Alright, well that's about it, that'll probably do. Now, there's actually quite a handful because there's a lot of subtlety going on this landscape. You've got near to far, you've got water and reflections and cliffs, closer ones here, distant ones, then you've got buildings, heaps of shadows on the edge of the trees. There's a lot of subtlety going on. I've pretty much got it, so I'll leave it at that. if I need to do any touch-ups, I can make another video at home about how I've touched it up. Hopefully the painting's done. Ideally, I like to do them in one go, like this. Every now and then, I may look at the painting, I'll get it out in another month or two and look at it and think maybe now it's dry I could just do a couple of marks to improve it. It's best not to do it as soon as you get home, because guaranteed if you get home now and try and rework it, you'll wreck it. You'll lose the spontaneity. So what I'll do is I'll just leave that. I'm pretty happy with it. So what I'll do is when I get home, in a month or two, I may do one or two touch-ups just to clarify things, but that's it. You do not want to lose the spontaneity of the day. Alright, so what I'll do is I'll get the camera off and let you have a look. No worries, thank you. Alright, let's go in and have a look. Now there's the plein air setup, the vehicle and whatever. And that gives you an idea of the backdrop that I was painting. Now let's come in and have a look. Now you can see when you're up a bit closer, it's quite a chunky style, and as I said, it's mostly the palette knife with a bit of brush, and the palette knife's there to really apply the paint, and you can see those buildings are done with such a simple illusion effect. Showing off the most obvious parts of the building gives the illusion of the whole building itself. With the limestone I got to play with some beautiful rich colours, contrasted by the beautiful blues and mauves in the shadows. Fading off into the distance, where you've got a few more subtle mauves and key down colours of the distance itself. Then when you jut up into the high level clouds, I really paid attention on softening those to contrast the foreground chunkiness. Well, there you go, that's about it. Okay, now if you liked the video, remember to go ahead and like the video, and if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe, press the notification bell, and that way you'll be made aware of any video as uploaded. Okay, well, no worries. Until next time, I'll see you later.